Hello again, we are back. This is Nick, and these are the new points for X-Wing 2nd Edition as of July 11th, 2019. Now, in this video, we're going to go through all the changes to the Rebel Alliance and the Resistance. Just a quick note, this is a separate recording from the last video, so I have gotten a bit of feedback since then. People were saying, oh, you really should be taking into account the costs increase on some of the generics when looking at some of the decreases on some pilots. I do completely agree with that. However, I would, as a counterpoint, say that yes, while things like that tend to balance out, like the point reduction, specifically on things like the TIE Aggressor, that was something that a lot of people were talking about, it does sort of encourage us to try and build out ships in different ways. Yes, we can't get the stapled-on veteran turret gun anymore. I completely understand that. However, there are other options, and while the existing builds are relatively untouched when you move some points down and some points up, it does allow, when the pilots go down in points, to try other builds, which is a good thing. I think trying to avoid sort of auto-add builds is a good move by FFG. Basically, when I have a look at all the points, all the cards that I would have considered auto-adds in the last block of points tend to have gone up in points, which makes a lot of sense, with a few exceptions, which we'll go through later on. But for the time being, let's talk about these. Once again, I have all the information here in front of me. I've got the generic points and the existing points on my phone, so we'll go through this bit by bit. Starting off with the Rebel Alliance, and look, you know what, before we get into the ships, let's just mention the fact that yes, Leia has gone up by 4 points. She's now 6 points instead of 2 points. So she's closer to her original cost of 8 points when 2nd edition first came out, and honestly I think being closer to that cost is correct. 8 points doesn't seem to be quite right on her because she basically didn't see all that much meta play apart from a bit of fringe play here and there, and I think it's a really cool effect that does deserve to see play if it's utilized correctly, but if it's not so degenerate, you can just spam the ability. Basically, for 2 points, you can just pop this off once and get all the value you need. I've already spoken about the power level of Leia. 6 points, I think, is good. I would have thought 6 or 7, so hopefully she doesn't continue to do broken stuff, but it is something to look out for just in case. And also, yes, Rebel beef in general, we have to look out for these ships. It seems like based on this very first ship that we're having a look at that FFG have slightly targeted that list because our B-Wings have gone up in value as well. Braylon Stram going up by 4 points, and 10 Num going up by 2 points. So it seems FFG have put a premium on these pilot abilities, which is odd. I really would have thought the frame, if anything, was a problem with the B-Wing. Not that I think it's much of a problem, but yeah, look, this ship has a very, very high ability to stress itself out, so it makes perfect sense. You can take advanced sensors, do an action, stress yourself out. In the case of 10 Num, remove the stress and do it again the next turn. Seems really, really decent. They are not seeing an insignificant amount of meta play, so I think with the overall shift, even the things that are not seeing a heap of meta play are going up a little bit. So yeah, it does feel fair anyway. Let's move over to the ARC 170. We have a point reduction on everything but the top end with Nora Wexley. Shara Bay has gone down 3 points. Wow. Garvin Dre's down 2 points, and Ibit Sam down 2 points as well. And this is great to see. Nora Wexley has a really, really powerful ability in 2nd edition. Adding evade results is something that ships just don't get anymore. And I do like the rest of these. They're not really seeing a whole heap of meta play. FFG might be trying to push to get that Jankyard list viable at least somewhat again. And perhaps if that is the kind of thing they're looking out for, increasing the cost in those B-Wings might be a necessary evil to make sure that's not too degenerate. I suppose that could make sense. Let's scroll down. No changes on the attack shuttle or the Azatuk. The Azatuk is a surprise. It's the only ship that we covered in our Junkyard series where we take a look at ships that aren't doing so well right now. And basically in the case of all those ships, they've come down in points, but not the Azatuk, which is a bit of a shame because I think if FFG are really going to push for sort of really interesting pilot abilities, Lorik and Wolfwire would be great to see on the table. And they might see play because they're a little bit more relevant now, but yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a shame, that. Moving down to the B-Wing, we have a points increase on Dutch Vanguard. And this is an interesting one. FFG have put a lot more costing on ordnance now. So maybe they're just being a little bit more cautious with the ability to double tap with proton torpedoes, so they're valued Dutch a little higher. He's still less expensive than Nora, so for what that's worth. Also, it is worth noting that the Y-Wing basically has had a proxy hit in the points increase on proton torpedoes, the turrets, and veteran turret gunner. So we're going to have to get a little bit more creative if we're going to get these things to work. But so far they've done quite well in the meta. Be interesting to see if Dutch can see play in a kind of junkyard build. It's only a 1-point increase. That could be quite fun if we can spam out target locks and just get some value with some hard-hitting X-Wings, maybe an Azatuk or something like that. We will see how that goes. On the K-Wing, we have a point increase on our base level pilot of 2 whole points. Okay. A point reduction on a siege to Ketu by 2 points and Miranda by 2 points. And look, this makes sense. The Warden Squadron spam has appeared here and there. I know I've covered it in at least one of my MetaWatch videos. So that basically makes that list a lot less viable to play. You can't quite squeeze out those hyper efficient lists. I mean, you've basically got to stack on some combination of 11 points. It can't take proton torpedoes anymore. Yeah, it's more than capable of squeezing in 11 points worth of bombs and missiles. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But yes, we saw a little bit of play with the Siege to Ketu, the sort of focus sharing shenanigans you can do with Garvin Dreis. Does not seem irrelevant. Miranda Doney has basically seen no play because her ability is far more nerfed than it was in first edition. So this might help her along a bit. That ability now only cost 4 points to buy into it, which seems much more competitive than it used to be. Hey, look, Miranda's not going to do what she used to do, but at 43 points... Could be relevant. Moving down to the E-Wing, we have a point reduction on the frame of this ship. The name parts have remained the same. Corin Horn still able to see his fringe play in his fringe list with those fringe players looking at you, Nathan Eade. But the generics have gone down by 2 points each, which is good to see. Both this and the TIE Defender has seen a slight point reduction. And look, they're very similar in terms of design. They're the kind of do-it-all ship that has a whole heap of actions. In the case of the E-Wing, you can take bonus target locks, and Defenders have extra evades. Now, E-Wings are much cheaper than Defenders, and I think that is reasonable. It just is quite a large gap between the ships. I would have erred on the side of caution with this, which I guess is why they didn't drop the points on Corin Horn and Gavin Darklight. I guess that makes sense. These generics have not really seen much play, if anything, and Gavin and Corin are more in those fringe lists, so I think this is probably fair enough. I don't think this is going to make it see a heap of play. Having things a bit fairer is always good. Let's jump down to the Hawk, which has seen a points reduction across the board. Jan Ors is down by 1 point, Rourke Garnett down by 2 points, Kyle down by 3 points, and our Scout down by 3 points as well. So the frames had quite a nice hit. Jan Ors' ability is no joke if you can find some way to combo with it. I just don't think that's really happened in 2nd edition yet. It did a bit in 1st edition alongside Ray, but you obviously can't fly Jan alongside Ray, so that seems okay. Now, Moldy Crow is still 18 points, so it's not like it's taking a huge reduction across the board, but there is always the option to fly this without Moldy Crow. Jan, for example, with Moldy Crow would be 61 points, which is quite a hefty cost, if I'm to be honest. But a very powerful ability if you can make it work. I'm very, very curious about Kyle Katarn. I love this ability. It's a really cool thing for a support chip to be able to do. Just cross-referencing that with our Perceptive Co-Pilot. No, that's not gone up in points, so there's still a nice combo to play around with there. Yeah, again, Junkyard stuff actually looking somewhat viable. I know that list never ran a Hawk, but that's something worth looking out for, I reckon. No changes on the A-Wing, still lacking that modification, sad face. No changes on the Sheathipede. Oh, by the way, guys, I am aware that FFG have removed some upgrades, so I'm being very cautious. I know they're not marked, so I'm just being cautious as I look through those. Moving down to the T-65 X-Wing, we have a points increase on Wedge. Honestly, given where he sits in the points, this feels okay. Wedge was previously 52 points, up by 3 points. That's not insignificant. But yeah, look, Wedge plus Luke, plus stuff has pretty much been a constant thing on the Rebellion ever since 2nd edition. And I think we can kind of get away with Luke because he's an iconic character, and FFG seem to give leeway to those characters. I mean, so is Wedge, but yeah, he's not Luke. Let's be honest. Look, this is fine. This is something that has seen a lot of meta share on the Rebellion. Gives all the other X-Wing pilots a shot, and yeah, look, given the environment, giving everything going on with these points change, this seems fair enough to me. No change in the costing of the Rebel TIE Fighter. Actually a ship that was on the shortlist for us to do in a junkyard video, so we just never got round to that one. I don't really know if keeping it the same points cost is okay. It's lost like the original title it had in 1st edition. Not really sure what FFG's doing with this ship, so hopefully, I don't know, pilots or upgrades or something happens to this at some stage. Let us move down. We have no points change on the U-Wing. Just double checking. Yep, all the things that had elicits before still have elicits. Seems fair enough. No points change on the VCX 100. Sort of occasionally seeing play, but yeah, this is an interesting one. FFG trying to be a little bit kind to their large base ships. There's no point reduction on this or either of the Phantoms, so make of that what you will. Okay, moving down to the Falcon, which has not had any points changes, but has had another modification slot added. But yes, they have lost the elicit slot. Don't worry, I did not miss that. So it can no longer take inertial dampeners, the key thing which is sort of on the radar in terms of what people believe makes that ultra fat Han list work really well. Look, I don't think that absolutely cripples the list, but let's be honest, being able to choose at Initiative 6 to not move is very, very good. So yeah, I think that is a hit to that list, and I think if people are still going to fly that, they're going to have to readjust how that works. I still think people should be really giving a bit more credence to Lando Calrissian, but look, Han's also good as well. Now, in terms of 2 modifications, that can do not much. Let me have a look at the modifications and see if I've missed something here. Oh, right, that is a very underwhelming list of options. I mean, there's engine upgrades, yeah, fantastic. Hull and shield, whatever. Yeah, I don't really know if having an extra modification is really going to do much for this ship, if I'm to be honest. Let me know in the comment section if I've missed something, guys. Maybe like a tactical scrambler and engine upgrades alongside a couple of ships could be an option. I mean, who knows? Someone will break this again. It's the Falcon. It's going to get broken. Good to see no points increase or decrease. I think just hitting that one key upgrade was the right move by FFG. Sadly, no points decrease on the YT2400. This is something a lot of people have been asking about. Now, Dash did go down by 2 points in the last points change. He was previously 100 points, which is not absurd because you do have to appreciate the fact that the way Dash is built right now, he essentially has like the heavy laser cannon and the title, plus he can shoot at range 1 if you like compare it to the 1st edition stuff, which does sort of roughly equate to the points cost. I know they could shoot 360, so it's not a completely fair comparison. Look, it's not lost any slots or anything, but yeah, I felt like this is something that FFG could have looked at. I don't think it's entirely unreasonable with the notion of this going down, but yeah. Look, we also have to appreciate, guys, that the Rebellion has seen a lot of meta share in the last points block, so maybe FFG are not keen to let anything broken slip through this time round. I don't think the faction's going to be uncompetitive just because they haven't touched the YT2400 or Aztec, but it is a shame nonetheless. No change to the Z95 missile modification, just as you had before. Okay, moving down to our upgrades. Let's have a look at this. So, previously R2-D2 was a clean 6 points. And R2-D2 is actually now cheaper if you have agilities 2 or below. Also, agility 3. I don't think there's a ship on the Rebellion that has agility 3 in an astromech slot. Am I forgetting something here? No, X-Wings and Y-Wings and Sheathopedes, and that's it. Okay, cool. No complaints there, but yeah, it's probably good to safeguard this just in case something does come along. And look, if they're going to put them against agility and scale the points that way. They have to make sure to cover all their bases, regardless if it's something that doesn't exist or not. So basically, as it stands, R2 has just been reduced in points. On the X-Wing, he has been reduced by 1 point. But for what it's worth, on a Y-Wing, he's 4 points. It doesn't really help the points deficit on the Y-Wing with all of their other upgrades. I don't think R2 is really what you want on a Y-Wing, but it is an option nonetheless. The E-Wing. The E-Wing. I knew I was forgetting something. So yes, he is now 7 points on the E-Wing. I'm willing to bet there's going to be some comments down below if people are saying, you forgot the E-Wing before watching the rest of this video. Always watch the whole video before commenting, people. Very, very important. All right, let's just scroll back up again. Okay, our pivot wings and S-foils have not changed. We have some point increases on our crew. Leia Organa at 6 points. I don't need to reiterate myself. I think that is a good thing for that. Maul. You used to be 11 points? Yeah, so it's gone up by 1 point. I mean, at least he's the same cost as the Han Solo Gunner card. I thought it was kind of weird that Maul cost a point less because in terms of power level, he seems like a more consistent option, but yeah. Have something broken happened with Maul recently that I've missed? Maybe FFG are just safeguarding themselves. They don't want to put hate on Kanan Jarrus or like Ezra in the attack shuttle. Am I missing something here, guys? Maybe this is reflective of something that's going to come out in the future and we have to watch out for it. R2-D2 in the crew slot has gone up by 2 points, up to 10. FFG are putting a bit more weight on that regeneration ability. Again, this is a Fat Han thing, so that makes perfect sense. Saw Gerrera up 1 point to 9 points. Still interesting. Again, this is a bit sad for the Uzatak because it didn't go down in points, but it has one of the sort of enablers for Wolfwire go up by a point. That feels a bit sad. Again, have I missed something? Has Saul done something recently? I have to admit, I have missed the last few tournaments, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Again, this could be a reflection of FFG just watching out for those Junkyard builds. They're trying to push that archetype a bit more and just be a bit more restrained with some of the other upgrades, possibly. Ezra was 18 points down to 14 points. I mean, sure, he saw no play. A gunner with a force upgrade is a great boon for large base ships. This is going to help out with the Falcon, YT-2400 and the VCX, hopefully. I mean, I say hopefully. It's the same cost now as Bastan and Han Solo for what that's worth. Luke has not gone up, but honestly, I think the other ways that FFG have hit the Fat Han build are fine. I don't think we need to raise the cost on Luke. Feels good to me, and no points change with the titles. Okay, let's jump over to the Resistance and have a chat about them. Okay, first up, point reductions across the board on our Star Fortress. 2 points down on Finch Dallo, 2 points down on Eden Kapal, 2 points down on Bemtine, 2 points down on Venny, 2 points down on Cat, and 2 points down on Cobalt Squadron Bomber. I like that they're trying to further enable this ship. It's had a bit of success in like the double Star Fortress builds. But look, the Resistance, all in all, is all about those X-Wing and A-Wings, so making this a bit more competitive feels right. Again, it's a large base ship. FFG are trying to still find the sweet spot on that. Not much to say here, just double-checking the generics. Yep, there's no cost increase on those bombs, so that feels like a pretty consistent reduction across the board. Speaking of the A-Wings, yes, they've had a point increase. Again, right across the board. So, what do we got here? Lulo. Oh, up by 5 points. It's a great ability, I'm not surprised. Taliesin Lantra, up by a point. Our generics, 1 point and 1 point. Yeah, look, given the meta share of the A-Wings, this is probably fair enough. Lulo feels a bit harsh, but I think FFG do want a bit more diversity on this faction. No point increase on Grissonel, which I guess makes sense. Yeah, Lulo and Taliesin. They're the ones mainly being flown. A-Wings seem to fit into list at all squad point costs, so look, I don't think we can really complain here. It's still going to be a great ship. I think we have to just be a bit more conservative with the builds here, maybe just slap on Heroic and maybe not just put on like a Predator Heroic onto every single A-Wing we fly. Plus, if we fly it alongside other things like Falcons and Star Fortresses, we're basically awash with points anyway because those have had point reduction. Speaking of which, the Falcon. Okay, Ray has gone down 7 points. Cha-ching. I'm going to fly this Falcon now. Han down by 5 points. Chewie down by 4 points, and the Resistance Sympathizer down by 3 points. So they've actually crushed the points a little bit there. Putting less of an emphasis on initiative on this platform. I mean, yeah, the boost is red, so initiative is less important. It's a big base ship. Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what they've done with some aces, where they've like increased the steepness of that points curve. Ray at 73 points is very, very interesting, especially with Leia entering into the format. Look, Leia's not cheap, but it is something to look out for nonetheless. Apart from that, no change in its upgrade slots. Feels great. Chewbacca, especially with that 4 points reduction. Can we make the Chewie build work, people? I don't think so, but it's worth trying. I think this is probably closer to where the Falcon wants to be in terms of point cost, so good job there, FFG. Moving down to the X-Wing, we have point reductions pretty much across the board here. All of our top-end Initiative 5 and 6 pilots have stayed the same. Poe Dameron is still 68 points, fair enough. But Kher Khan has gone down by 1 point, as has Jess Pava and Joff Sea Striker. Yep, all the same. J. Chris Tubbs down by 1 point again. Black Squadron Ace, 1 point. 1 point Red Squadron Expert. And 1 point on Blue Squadron Rookie. So I guess it makes up for those point increases on some of those A-Wings, so that feels alright. Look, if you stack your list with X-Wing and A-Wings, I guess if you favour more X-Wings, it's pretty much going to be a wash in terms of the points cost on those. Look, given what's going on, this is only slight. It's 1 point on each of these pilots, so it's not really going to enable or disable things. I guess more of the point, if you have that blend of A-Wings and X-Wings, it's really not going to hurt those lists too much. And if you're just going to spam out A-Wings, it's going to make it more difficult. If you just spam out X-Wings, it's going to allow you to have a few more options, especially with our cheap pilots. What have we got here in terms of generics? The Black Squadron Ace and Red Squadron Expert, both with talents. You got 1 point to play with Black Squadron Ace if you want to fly that with the 4 of, or 3 points to play with on a Red Squadron Ace if you want to fly that as a 4 of. So on the Red Squadron Expert, you can put on R4 Astromech and Heroic now and fly that as a 4 of. Okay, cool. Sounds good. I like those kinds of lists. Nice and simple, but powerful. Okay, and we're on to our new ship now. I don't know why I'm looking at the previous points, because they don't exist. We have a point cost of 38 points for Kovanel, 36 points for Pamek Nero Good, 36 points for Noden Shavdri, 32 points for the Logistics Division Pilot. That was one of the key ones we were looking at, flying alongside Chewie. So if Chewie's 68 points, it means you can fly some amount of these next to that. Yes, that would be 5 of, if I've got that correctly. Yeah, it's not uninteresting, but it's not a massive points decrease on the old A-Wing frame, so it doesn't really offer anything more to that build, sadly. Again, we're looking mainly at this generic because there is no generic for the transport pod. In terms of what else this has, yes, it has the tech, the cannon, the torpedo, 2 crew, astromech modification. There is just no surprises there whatsoever. Only a talent on one of the pilots though. We'll have a bit more of a chat about this when we look at some lists. But yeah, that seems like a bit of a limitation for sure. Moving down to the Resistance Transport Pod, BB-8 at 26 points. That feels really, really good. And Rose, Finn, and V Muradi. The V being nice and cheap as well. I do like this pilot as an option for a crew carrier. It can't take Leia. It doesn't have the 2 crew slots. Tech crew modification, so no weapons or anything. I am curious about BB-8. Only 26 points being able to be put into a C-3PO build. Looks like it's something that is doing all right for its points cost. I mean, it's not a great ship in terms of its values. It's what? 2 red dice, 2 green dice, 3 hull and a shield or something like that. So it almost feels like a bit worse than a TIE fighter in terms of its survivability and combat effectiveness, but it's only 26 points. It's got a pretty dope ability, so I think it's worth looking at. Look, this seems about fair. I think the Resistance Transport is a little bit more expensive than I expected. But given what it can do and all these new crew options, yeah, it's not something that we should be ignoring outright because of something like that. Okay, let's move over to these upgrades. No change on any astromechs. S-foil still 0 points. Okay, looking at these new crew options. Amelin Holdo at 9 points. That feels really, really good. I think I was mentally telling myself as I was reading that in that previous video that if she's under 10 points, I think that is something worth looking at. A really great support crew option. I just know this is going to do something busted. You combo it with like angled deflectors and pass off reinforced tokens to ships that just don't deserve them. Yeah, that could be kind of fun. No points changes on any of the other crew members, but our new crew, what have we got? GA 97 and 8 points, yep. Cadel Connix at 5 points, yep, changing the speed of your maneuvers, that feels about right. Cora Sella, being able to dump all the stress tokens all at once for 6 points. That ability probably isn't as efficient as I would have liked it to be, but I guess there's a lot of great options for it on the Resistance right now, on the Falcon in particular. Lama Darcy at 4 points, that feels really competitive. I don't mind that at all, being able to do all of those actions even while stressed. It does take up a crew slot, we do have to remember that, so you can't put it next to Leia. I guess you can put it next to Admiral Holdo. That's something worth looking at. Leia is 19 points. Now, I think me and Justin were sort of theorising around the 15-point mark for Leia Organa. 19 is probably a bit more than I would have liked, but Rey has come down in points. In fact, Rey has gone down by 7 points. So if you factor that in, it's almost like Leia only cost 12 points. I suppose. You're going to have to be really conservative with the kind of options you put it on. Either you put it on the Falcon and you use it like a brawler, or you put it on a resistant transport and you are just very cautious to make sure it doesn't get shot. Either way, I think there's some competitive options with Leia. Whether those things prevail, yet to be seen. The Falcon has not done well so far in terms of meta play, and obviously the resistant transport is an unknown quantity, but yeah, Resistance looking really interesting right now. Apart from that, do we have any other points changes? No, it does not look like it. Okay, so yes, this feels pretty fair. I'm very glad that I'm not one of the people that has gone out and bought like 5 A-Wings. I think that was on the agenda, especially considering the point reduction on the Falcon and Star Fortress. FFG are clearly trying to push people away from only flying X-Wings and A-Wings. I mean, that's the entire meta in terms of the Resistance right now. So this is good. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think these points changes are very, very pleasing, and a lot of these new elements in terms of the crew and the Resistance transport is going to add a lot to this faction. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yes, stay tuned. There's still 2 more of these to come. In the meantime, do not forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting my Patreon, the best thing right now you can do to support the channel. Seriously, if you only put $1 on that, you are supporting me way more than the YouTube ad revenue. And thank you, of course, so much to all of my existing patrons. You guys are flippin' awesome. I'll catch you all in the next video.